all charges against the J20, the remaining J20 Antifa protesters and, to an extent, rioters. They're dropped. They've won. I believe there was only one felony conviction, and I think that might have been a plea deal. So here's what we have from BuzzFeed News. The government is dropping all charges in the remaining Inauguration Day protests. After several trials, prosecutors were unable to secure any convictions. Of the 234 people arrested, 21 people pleaded guilty. This story is from yesterday. First, I was also arrested in this group. I know how to handle myself, and I was released with a handful of other journalists. There were some journalists who had to go to trial, and they were acquitted. I was not one of them. Yes, I was arrested. I was told in no uncertain terms several times I was arrested. I was not free to leave. However, I was pulled out of the group. Apparently, what I heard was that Lieutenant Washington, the man who was there, this is over a year ago now, this is January 20th of 2017, the supervisor on duty was told by his superiors to pull the journalists out and get them on their way. I think the main reason is that journalists are going to report what happened. The police do have a working relationship with the press to an extent, and everybody wants good press, so to the best of your ability, get the journalists out of there. There were some journalists who were screaming at the top of their lungs, threatening the police. Not all of them. I think there was a couple that maybe shouldn't be considered journalists. If you're going to yell at the cops that you're a journalist, then they should let you out. I got out because I was simply like, I just want to let you know I'm press, do your thing. I'm just making sure you're aware. And they're like, okay. And then when it came time to pull people out, I was in a corner with a bunch of journalists, and I'm like, here's my card. And the guy pulls me out, looks at it, and says, all right, man, get out of here. And that was it. Anyway, let's talk about this, because this is serious, okay? So I think this story from BuzzFeed goes into, everything. And I only want to cover a few points before I give you my thoughts on the matter. First, let me just say, I am disappointed to a certain extent that they couldn't secure any convictions. However, overwhelmingly, probably 90%, I lean towards, I am glad these acquittals happen. And I know a lot of people are going to get angry and be like, no, Antifa should go to prison and all that stuff. And I'm like, hold on. We'll talk about it. I do think some people should be held accountable, and 21 people pled guilty, so those people are being held accountable. And a lot of people who probably should have got convicted didn't, but most people probably shouldn't have been convicted. And so, ultimately, I gotta say, I'm actually kind of satisfied with the results. For the most part, I disagree with the mass arrest. I disagree with the blanket conspiracy charges and felony charges against these people. I understand it, so we'll break this stuff down. But I'm rather lukewarm on how it turned out. People who pled guilty, but there were no convictions. Nobody who went to trial was convicted. So let's just read through it a little bit. 234 people were mass arrested on January 20th. I have a live stream of it, actually. One person was sentenced to jail time after pleading guilty to a felony charge. The final dismissal notice Friday came after several trials in which prosecutors were unable to secure any convictions. Defendants were either acquitted or jurors failed to reach a verdict. In a statement, the U.S. Attorney's Office said they believe that the evidence shows that a riot occurred on January 20, 2017, during which more than $100,000 in damage was caused to numerous public and private properties. Indeed, 21 people have pled guilty to charges for their conduct that day, including 1 to felony offenses. In light of the results in the cases brought to trial, however, the U.S. Attorney's Office has now moved to dismiss charges against 38 remaining defendants in the matter. There were 39 cases still pending before Friday. The U.S. Attorney's Office filed additional papers dismissing that case later in the day. So basically, on January 20th, a large group of hundreds, right? They arrested 230. Most of the people got away in black bloc. Not all of them, but many of them. So they're wearing black hoodies, masks, glasses, were running full speed through the streets. I was running with them. So were many other journalists. Lauren Southern was there. Luke Rutkowski was there. Several people were breaking out of the crowd, smashing windows. Later in the day, there were fires set, but in this crowd, they were smashing windows, knocking over garbage cans. And ultimately, what happened was we came to this intersection, I can't remember which one it was, and you have a street, and then you had stairs that went into a little section where you could stand. Well, the police formed a line and were pepper spraying people. So I wanted to get away from the crowd as they were running full speed and clashing with police. So I went up to this door, and then a bunch of people ran up there as well, and then the police boxed us all in. And Luke charged through and got pepper sprayed, got covered in pepper spray. Lauren was actually in the arrest with me as well. And she got out because someone yelled that she was pregnant. And so the police pulled her out. That that kind of blew my mind. It's like, okay, what do we call that? We call that female privilege. When a mass arrest occurs and you're a woman, you can simply say you're pregnant and the police will not mass arrest you. So anyway, the point of a black bloc is there's two things. One, to show solidarity. I kind of feel like it's a bit of an excuse. You know, what they want is they want everyone to see a big black mass. Everyone's wearing, you know, black and it looks like one massive group to show people that they're all in agreement on what they're doing. Though, people in black bloc can be of varying different political ideologies on the left. One of the main reasons is to provide cover so that when someone commits an act of vandalism or violence, the police can't identify them. And this becomes a huge problem for the government and for the local community even. I mean, they were smashing the businesses, smashing windows of businesses. Later in the day, they torched a limousine that belonged to an immigrant. You know, it was like an immigrant small business or something like that. Just because it's a limo, I guess. So the people who got arrested weren't the ones who started the fires. That was later in the day. But, you know, basically, how do you hold these people accountable? And this is one of the big challenges. You shouldn't, you look, when you smash the window of a Starbucks, you're not hurting Starbucks. They've got insurance. And what's good, it's a rounding error. The amount of money it costs them to fix that is so tiny, they probably don't notice it. Sure, you'll put them out of business for a few hours while they clean it up or board it up or something. But that's also a rounding error. It's a day off, but you know what isn't a rounding error? That barista who can't come into work today. That means they're not going to get important wages. And when you're somebody who's making 10, 15 bucks an hour, you really need those hours. The only people who are actually hurt by it are the individual laborers. You know, I told people when they smash a bank window, I'm like, you know, the dude who works there is probably making like $35,000 a year. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, he's like a working class person. You smash the window, they show up and they say, I don't understand why someone smashed my window. And these activists don't care. They're like, it's a symbol. You know, it's showing the police, it's showing the system how we feel. And I'm like, yeah, it's making everyone hate you. You're doing the best. Like, sure, you'll satisfy yourself emotionally thinking you're not doing anything. You know what would cause more damage to a bank or to Starbucks? Wearing some nice clothes, maybe like a button up and some nice slacks, standing outside, smiling and asking, you know, shaking someone's hand and saying, before you go in, I just wanted to let you know that this company does these things and I think it's really bad. And so, you know, by all means, go in there, have your coffee today, but I ask you, in the future, just consider an alternative. You know, if you have an option of going to a small business or someone else who's gonna sell coffee, don't go to this business. You know, if you don't like the bank, say, I encourage you to go to a credit union because it's actually probably going to be cheaper for you. You know, these big banks, they've done us wrong in this country and they you know, they're part of the financial collapse. Go to a credit union and you'll probably end up saving money for yourself, but credit unions reinvest in the community and they're nonprofit. So, you know, by all means, you know, do what you got to do. I appreciate it, but thank you, and smile and shake their hand. I'll tell you what, you convince 2 people per week to move their savings out of a bank and that bank's going to start getting real pissed off. You smash a window and they're gonna roll their eyes. You know, that's why I get really angry. What this is, when you see Antifa running around smashing stuff and starting fires, and the anti-capitalists and whatever, it's just angry kids, for the most part. It's like 20-something-year-old males who are going around smashing stuff. And they're doing it because it makes them feel good. They're angry, it makes them feel good. It doesn't solve anything. You know, if you actually sat down and came up with a strategy, you'd be like, smashing that window's not gonna do anything. They do it anyway. It's not gonna recruit anybody. No one's gonna feel good about it. You might feel good about it. You and your friends might high-five each other, but at the end of the day, did you really change anything? No, you made things worse. The system's gonna, you know what I told people at Occupy? I said, listen, the system is a skyscraper. You're standing at the base of that skyscraper with a rock, bashing it against that skyscraper thinking you're gonna knock it down. It's never gonna happen. But you know what will bring that skyscraper down? Convincing other people to stop maintaining it, to stop servicing it. And then eventually it falls into disarray and it has to be brought down. What I mean by that analogy is exactly what I just said. Convince people to go somewhere else through a smile and a handshake. Congratulations. You've made people feel good. You've had good conversation. You've maybe learned something, they maybe learned something, maybe they won't change, maybe they will, but you're productive conversations to change minds. Way more effective. This is what I get so bothered about with, you know, black bloc tactics and Antifa and smashing stuff, is that it doesn't do anything but make the problems worse. By all means, be a communist, be a socialist, be far left, And the way you go about doing that is like what the Democratic Socialists are doing. Yeah, the Democratic Socialists have crazy ideas like abolish profit. What? That's insane. You know, no borders. How you can have a country with no borders, open borders and no borders, different things. But it's working. You know, they're winning state legislature, state positions. They've just got Alexandria Cortez just won in the 14th district. That stuff works. Personally, I think, you know, I don't agree with that far left stuff. And you know what I'm gonna do about it? I'm gonna make a YouTube video and I'm gonna talk to people and that's about it. And if my ideas aren't strong enough and I can't articulate them, I lose. And that's why it's important that we all be smart and pay attention. But smashing people's faces with bike locks and smashing windows ain't gonna do anything. Anyway, I'm not gonna read through all this. The news is the news. You've heard me rant for 10 minutes or so now. But, you know, basically, there have been a series of dismissals. The government actually withheld evidence, and they wanted to get Project Veritas to testify. It's been an ongoing story that I've covered time and time again. But for the most part, you know, you can read through it on BuzzFeed. The most important thing is say that the government, they lost, you know, for the most part. They couldn't convict anybody. They got 21 people to plead guilty. One person pled guilty to felony charges, but they dropped everything else, and that's it. So, you know, whatever your thoughts on the matter, my opinion is fairly tepid, like most things. But I really don't like the idea of the government trying to accuse everyone of conspiracy. Apparently, there was some evidence that people in planning meetings were trying to make sure vandalism didn't happen. And they withheld that evidence. So that pisses me off. If these activists are having meetings and saying, hey man, don't engage in violence, you know, only defend yourself, and don't smash stuff, I'm like, totally agree. Start a black bloc, march through the streets, obstruct the road, you know, put barricades in the street and stop traffic. Civil disobedience, awesome. You're gonna get arrested, but that's the way it goes. And a lot of these activists are like, you know, you get arrested, it's a badge of honor. Typically, you'll get the charges dismissed. If these activists are having meetings where they're like, hey man, let's not get violent, let's make sure nobody commits vandalism, like boom, now we're talking. Because a roadblock, it's gonna piss people off too. And I personally think it's not that effective. But at least you're not causing long, you know, standing permanent damage. And the people in those cars, as pissed off as they are, you might turn some of them away from your cause, you've made them aware, and some people might actually honk and cheer for you. So civil disobedience is awesome. Destroying the private property of random individuals and hurting innocent people, not awesome. You're not fighting Nazis, you're not fighting the government, you're hurting regular people. That's just not cool. Anyway, stick around. Actually, no, I think that's my last video, so thanks for hanging out for now. But podcast tomorrow, and yeah, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Sunday. And if you made it this far, pick up a shirt in the description below.